She tried to discredit him on live TV. His response? It changed everything. It started with an email. Harmless, almost forgettable. Just one line from the producers of the Morning Exchange, inviting me to talk about diversity in tech. The kind of message that floats into your inbox like a feather and lands like a trap. I've learned the hard way that some smiles come with teeth, and some invitations arrive wrapped in applause but lined with barbed wire. When you've spent your life building something for nothing, you know better than to believe an open door doesn't sometimes swing shut behind you. I remember reading it and thinking, here we go again. I didn't know it then, but this wasn't just another interview. It would become a national reckoning, and somewhere between hair and makeup and the host's first fake smile, I'd find out just how far they were willing to go to put me in my place. What happened next was not only a lesson for the aggressors, but also a powerful reminder of empathy, responsibility, and the ongoing fight for equal dignity. We're about to share a powerful moment of truth, but first, drop your location and let us know, have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because tomorrow we have another incredible story, and there are many surprises waiting for you in the next parts. We had just signed the biggest contract in Innovis history, $200 million, 0 cents, from the Department of Defense. Our encryption system had outperformed companies 10 times our size, the kind with century-old names and CEOs who never have to spell theirs twice. And now, suddenly, everyone wanted to talk to me. Funny, isn't it? Nobody called when we were bootstrapping prototypes out of a studio apartment. Nobody asked about diversity when I was sleeping under my desk. But the minute we outbid a legacy firm with marble lobbies and 5 lobbyists per senator, the cameras showed up. My assistant, Tasha, caught the vibe before I could even speak it. "You sure you want to do this?" she asked, her tone like a mother warning her son not to touch a hot stove. "You know how these shows work. They love to lift a brother up, but they love tearing him down even more." She wasn't wrong. I stared at that email like it might blink first. "It's national exposure," I said. "Let's see what they really want." But deep down, I wasn't sure if I was walking into a spotlight or a trap door. I could feel it in my bones. Not fear, just that old instinct. The one you develop when you've spent your entire life proving that your success wasn't a typo. That you didn't win because someone felt generous, but because you bled for it. The world doesn't like its underdogs when they stop being under. And me? I wasn't the inspiring startup founder anymore. I was a black man who beat them at their own game. And that, in their eyes, was unforgivable. Just don't let them bait you, Tasha warned as she handed me my itinerary. They'll smile while they hand you the knife. I nodded and gave her a half smirk. I've been playing chess since I was 8. Let's see what kind of board this is. The studio felt colder than it should have been. Sterile, too clean, like a dentist's office, pretending to be glamorous. A young assistant greeted me with a nod and barely looked up from her clipboard. "Mr. Bell, makeup in 5. No warmth, no small talk, just the conveyor belt professionalism of people who don't see you, only your airtime." As I sat in the chair, someone powdered my face with all the enthusiasm of wiping down a countertop. On the monitor above, I watched the tail end of a segment about celebrity meltdowns and followed by a cooking demo on quinoa muffins. And then it flashed, "Coming up next, the black tech boom, talent or special treatment." I felt something tighten in my jaw. So that's what this was. Not a celebration, a cross-examination. A polite ambush dressed in blue lights and commercial breaks. I almost laughed. Of course, they didn't want my insight. They wanted my DNA sliced under a microscope. But they were in for a surprise. If they thought they were dragging a clueless startup into a trap, they picked the wrong man. Because I didn't come to play defense. I came to flip the board. That's the thing no one tells you about success. You don't climb to the top. You maneuver. You calculate. You play 12 steps ahead while smiling at people who'd rather see you fall. And when you finally get that seat at the table, you realize the table was never made for you. It's been wobbling this whole time, and you're expected to balance on it while juggling excellence, patience, and proof. That morning, as I adjusted my cufflinks and looked into the camera's cold glass eye, I thought of every time someone said, "You don't look like a CEO," and now here I was about to remind them what one looks like when he's not asking for permission. The teaser played again. Talent or special treatment? I shook my head. "So that's the game," I muttered under my breath. Then I smiled. Let's see what happens when the pawn knows how to play. Leave a comment below to let us know where you are watching from, and if you like fascinating stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow we have another incredible story, and there are many surprises waiting for you in the next parts. She smiled like someone who'd practiced every expression in a mirror until it looked real. Madeline Royce, the face of the morning exchange, leaned in with the kind of warmth that never touches the eyes. Her voice glided across the studio like honey over glass. Sweet, smooth, cold underneath. I'd seen that kind of performance before. "Welcome back," she said to the audience, turning her attention to me. "We're joined this morning by Darius Bell, the CEO of Innovis, a company that just secured one of the largest government contracts in recent tech history." She smiled again, her tone gentle as velvet but framed like a noose, a true American success story. I gave her a polite nod, the kind that says, "I see you even if you think I don't." Her set was staged to feel cozy, all soft blues and golds, but under the warmth was the quiet hum of a machine built for prey. I sat across from her, alert but calm, because something about her cadence said this wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be a test, and they'd already sharpened their pencils. She started with applause. That's how they do it. They stack the flattery high so your fall sounds louder. "Your team beat out some of the most established firms in the game," she said. "A remarkable achievement." I smiled slightly, but inside I was clocking the tempo of her words, waiting for the shift. "It took years," I said. "We built our own encryption system, developed it in-house, tested it, retested it. Nothing lucky about it." She nodded like she believed me, but I've been black in business long enough to know that smiles like hers are often shaped like bait. "You know," I added, "it's funny how you can work for 20 years, but people only notice you the moment you threaten someone's comfort." Her eyebrows rose, and there it was, that flicker, that tiny hitch in her smile. "Of course," she said, and glanced at her next card. "But some industry voices have raised concerns." She let the words dangle. I leaned back, waiting, because here it came. "That companies like yours may benefit disproportionately from federal diversity programs, that this might not have been purely about performance, but about optics." She said it like she was asking about the weather, but we both knew this was the moment they brought me here for. My fingers stayed still. I didn't flinch. "So the implication," I said slowly, "is that we didn't win because we were the best. We won because we were convenient." Madeline stayed perfectly still. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "That's an old narrative, Madeline. When a white company gets the contract, it's efficiency. When we get it, it's equity." Her smile returned, but smaller now. "You're saying diversity didn't play a role?" I nodded slowly. "Oh, it played a role. Race always plays a role. The question isn't whether it shows up, it's who it shows up for." Elon Musk didn't get asked if SpaceX won contracts because of some diversity push. Jeff Bezos didn't have to defend Blue Origin's place at the table. But somehow, every time someone who looks like me wins, it's treated like a social experiment. There was a pause in the room, the kind that sits heavy and hums with discomfort. The producers off camera weren't blinking. Madeline, though, didn't miss a beat. "I think our viewers just want transparency," she said. "They're asking how someone with no Ivy League pedigree, no family connections, no billion-dollar backing ends up beating legacy firms. That's all." My smile tightened. I worked 3 jobs to get my degree, slept in my office when I couldn't afford rent. That's how I could feel it now, the air shifting. Her tone changed, even if her smile didn't. "But surely you had help along the way," she pressed. "A mentor, a grant, some boost that helped level the playing field." I laughed quietly. Sure. The help came in the form of every door that slammed in my face. The help came in the form of hearing maybe next quarter for 5 straight years while white founders raised funding with pitch decks made in PowerPoint. She tilted her head, a calculated move meant to signal empathy. "But isn't it possible," she said, "that this moment you're having, this visibility, isn't just because of merit, but because the media is hungry for stories like yours?" My jaw clenched, but I stayed still. "Let me ask you this, Madeline," I said softly. "Do you think I'd be sitting here if I wasn't exceptional? Or do you think I got here because I smiled at the right time and checked the right box?" Her mouth opened, but no words came. I filled the silence. "You want transparency? Here it is. We didn't get here by luck or charity. We got here by building something that couldn't be ignored. But even now, you're trying to make it look like we didn't earn the seat, that maybe the seat was a gift. That's not journalism, Madeline. That's framing a story to fit a bias." Her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "That was the real her?" She adjusted in her chair. "I'm just asking the questions people are thinking," she said. "Then maybe people need to think harder," I replied. The studio lights suddenly felt hotter. The air had a pulse. Off camera, someone dropped a clipboard, a coffee cup trembled on the edge of the table. "Because in rooms like this," I continued, "silence isn't safety, it's surrender. And I'm done surrendering. Leave a comment below to let us know where you are watching from. And if you like fascinating stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow we have another incredible story and there are many surprises waiting for you in the next parts." Madeline adjusted the stack of cue cards in her hand, but she didn't look at them. That was the signal, the pivot. She wasn't done, just changing weapons. Her smile returned, smaller now, tighter around the edges. "Darius," she said, voice smooth again, "you've spoken about Innovis and your success. But let's talk about where you came from." She leaned forward slightly, enough to feign intimacy while sharpening her blade. "You grew up in Birmingham, single mom, public school, no Ivy League, no deep-pocketed family connections. That's inspiring, really. But here's what some might wonder." She let it hang, eyes narrowing just a touch. "How does someone with no access to those networks rise above billion-dollar corporations? Was it just grit, or were there other doors opened for you that we're not seeing?" And there it was, not a question, an accusation dressed like curiosity. The implication was loud, even if her tone whispered. "How did someone like you get in here?" I sat still, breathing through my nose, steady, because I'd heard it before. Not always on television, not always with lighting and cue cards, but in boardrooms, during investment pitches, in the stiff handshake that held just a second too long, waiting for proof. "You're right," I said. "I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't have a godfather at Goldman Sachs. My Ivy League was working 3 jobs while studying for midterms in the back room of a warehouse." Her smile twitched, just a little. "I didn't inherit a roadmap. I built mine in the dark, by feel. Some people are born at the top of the ladder. I had to build mine from scrap metal and borrowed hope." I paused, watching her face for the flicker. "And while I was climbing, some folks were still busy deciding whether someone like me should even be allowed in the building." Her lips pressed together, a subtle move, but I saw it. "It's strange," I continued, "how we only question the legitimacy of success when it doesn't come in the usual packaging. Nobody ever asks the CEO with 3 generations of wealth if he had help. Nobody ever questions the Ivy League legacy kid about which golf buddy backed his seed round. I could feel it now, not just tension, but recognition. Somewhere behind the glass, one of the producers shifted uncomfortably. But when someone like me breaks through, suddenly it's all about what system might have carried me? I leaned forward slightly, voice still calm. Why do we interrogate black excellence but protect white mediocrity like it's a national treasure? Madeline blinked just once and reached for another card she didn't need. We don't ask who made the introductions, who floated the early payroll, who picked up the phone and cleared the path, but when I make it, we turn it into a sociology study. My voice had gained weight now, not volume, but mass. You see a miracle. I see muscle memory built on survival. You see overnight success. I see 20 years of showing up and being overlooked. For the first time, I didn't speak for the room. I spoke through it. You think I arrived. I know I crawled. And just then the light above us flickered. Not a blackout, just a glitch. A stutter in the illusion of control. It buzzed once, went dim for a breath, and hummed back to life. Someone backstage cursed quietly. But me? I smiled. Even the lights knew what was happening. Madeline glanced up, then back at me. She tapped the next card against her knee, eyes scanning it like a script she already knew by heart. Her voice dropped just enough to sound thoughtful, maybe even gracious. "Let's talk about perception," she said slowly, and I felt my spine tighten, because this wasn't about questions anymore. This was about shaping the ending. "Perception," I repeated, my voice dry as a blade. Here comes the twist of the knife. Leave a comment below to let us know where you are watching from, and if you like fascinating stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow we have another incredible story, and there are many surprises waiting for you in the next parts. Madeline didn't blink as she delivered what she must have thought was the final blow. "Your story," she said, tone soft like a mother praising a child for trying, "proves that the system isn't as broken as people claim, doesn't it?" It wasn't a question. It was a verdict, one designed to fold everything I'd just said into a tidy headline. "Black man makes it, therefore all is well." I looked at her, then past her, past the lights, past the tension that had hardened in the air like drying cement. "If one man escapes a burning building," I said quietly, "do you say the fire was exaggerated?" The silence that followed wasn't blank, it was electric, the kind of stillness that doesn't soothe but hums under your skin. Nobody moved. Nobody dared. Even the producer's hand, halfway to a coffee mug, froze mid-air. Madeline stared, but I didn't blink. Because that was the moment the room flipped. I wasn't defending myself anymore. I was indicting something much larger, and suddenly they weren't watching me. They were watching themselves. I turned to the camera, letting my voice drop just enough to feel like a conversation, not a performance. I know some of you watching this are nodding right now. You've lived this. You've seen it play out in job interviews, at bank counters, in quiet conversations where your qualifications somehow didn't feel quite enough. I paused, just a breath, to let it settle. And some of you are angry, shaking your heads, telling yourself this is just another race card being played. I let out a short, humorless laugh. "You call it a race card? I call it a race marathon, one where we've been running uphill in steel boots while others start on a conveyor belt." A flicker in the control room glass caught my eye. Someone behind the scenes had stood up. I leaned in slightly, not aggressive, just honest. If I weren't exceptional, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair. And yet even now people are wondering if I cheated to get here. That's not meritocracy, that's mythology. The words carried their own gravity. You could feel the weight of them pressing down on the crew, the floor, even the cables coiled behind the cameras. "Let's stop pretending," I said. "Let's start by telling the truth." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. That some of us were never supposed to win, and when we do, the world squints at our medals like they must have been handed to us by accident. For a moment, I could see Madeline reaching for a response, mentally flipping through rehearsed lines, but finding nothing that wouldn't expose her more. Her silence, for once, wasn't part of the show. It was real. A red light blinked, and the producer's voice crackled through the studio. "All right, let's take a quick break." The word "quick" was doing a lot of heavy lifting. Madeline forced a smile, eyes glassy but mouth still moving. "We'll be right back with more after this." The feed cut. But the damage was done. The silence didn't disappear, it thickened. Behind the scenes, a makeup artist pretended to adjust something on a table that didn't need adjusting. One of the camera operators lowered his head like he didn't want to meet my eyes, and Madeline, now off air, sat still, cue cards idle in her lap like broken tools. Even the stage lights seemed dimmer, like they'd flinched from the brightness of the moment. That silence wasn't empty, it was heavy, like thunder holding its breath. The room stayed quiet as I stood. A low beep echoed from someone's earpiece, but no one responded. Madeline reached for her water, but her hand hovered just short of it. Tasha's number lit up on my phone the second I stepped off set. I didn't even get a hello. Just her voice, half whisper, half victory cheer. "You just broke the internet." I didn't smile. Not yet. I looked at the reflection of the studio in the glass wall and saw it clearly for the first time. Not a platform, but a battleground. "Then let's hope the system's listening," I said. And this time, I wasn't the only one watching. I was being watched by the whole damn country. By the time I stepped into my car, my phone was melting down. Notifications poured in faster than I could swipe. Texts, emails, missed calls, tags from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Twitter had turned my name into a storm. Darius Bell Truth, Fire Interview, Race and Reality. One clip in particular, the moment I said, "You don't say the fire wasn't real just because one man escaped," was already on its 3rd million views. News anchors debated it, podcasts dissected it, and while some called it courageous, others called it confrontational. I made people feel seen. And that's the funny thing about clarity. Some people hate when the mirror reflects too well. By the next morning, the support came in waves. Venture capitalists who had ignored Innovis last year were suddenly offering meetings. We got 3 partnership inquiries before lunch. But the celebration came with silence from the usual suspects. The long-standing clients, the legacy brands who once praised our precision and discretion. By noon, one of them had paused, a contract worth 6 figures. Another scheduled a meeting, only to cancel it with no reason. Tasha walked into my office, holding 2 folders. One is from a new investor who wants in, the other is a client pulling out. I looked at her, already knowing. "Let me guess," I said. "It's raining roses and razor blades." She nodded. "And there's no umbrella that fits both." That afternoon, a package arrived at headquarters. No return label, no markings. Just a plain white box with my name in sharp black ink. Inside, one sheet of paper, folded once, perfectly centered. On it, in block letters, "Enough." That was it. No signature, no context. But context wasn't needed. Tasha read it twice, then looked at me with a frown that didn't reach her eyes. "This is getting out of hand," she said. "You need security, Dee." I waved her off. "They're just trying to rattle us." But as I slid that paper back into the envelope, I felt a pulse of something I didn't want to name. The threat wasn't loud. It was quiet. And quiet danger is the kind that stays with you. I stood at my office window later that evening, watching the city lights flicker, and whispered to myself, "This is the price for speaking when silence is safer." The next day started with another surprise, a call from a network executive I'd never met. "Mr. Bell," he said, voice crisp and too polite, "we'd like to offer you a televised special. 1 hour, no commercial breaks, a full deep dive into your story and your truth." I didn't answer immediately. My gut twisted, not with fear, but with the weight of knowing what it meant to step into a second storm with your eyes wide open. Tasha walked in mid-call, looked at my face, and paused. "Let me guess," she said. "They want to turn the moment into a movement." I covered the receiver and nodded once. She raised an eyebrow. "Well," she said, "are you going to walk away or burn the whole script and write your own?" I looked at the wall where a still image from the interview had been printed in the paper that morning. Me, leaning forward, Madeline silent, the caption read, "The moment the room changed." I turned back to the phone. My voice was calm. "I'll think about it," I said, but in truth, I already knew. The city stretched out beneath my office window like a circuit board of blinking lights and blurred ambition. I stood there, silent, my palm flat against the glass, watching a skyline I once dreamed of reaching. Now I was in it. Center stage, in a story I hadn't asked to headline. This wasn't the fight I picked, I said aloud to no one in particular, but maybe it's the one I needed. The interview wasn't about a contract. It wasn't about Inabius. It was about a mirror someone accidentally held too close to power. I thought back to Birmingham, back to being 10 years old, watching my mother argue with a landlord who acted like kindness cost him extra rent. I remembered the quiet I learned then, how to read a room, when to speak, when to swallow the truth for the sake of safety. I grew up learning to hold my tongue so tight it nearly choked me, and now the world had cracked open just wide enough to ask what I had to say. Tasha came in just after sunset, her laptop under one arm, and set a folder on my desk like it held something radioactive. "The network sent the terms," she said. "Full hour, no ads, national syndication." I didn't open it. I just stared at the edges of the folder, the way they lined up too neatly like a gift box hiding a live wire. "They want a conversation," she added. I turned from the window. "No," I said. "They want a moment they can package." She didn't disagree. She just waited. I picked up the folder and tapped it twice against my palm. "It's not about the mic," I said. "It's about what you say when the room finally goes quiet, and who still listens after the applause fades." Somewhere below, a car alarm went off for a single wail, then stopped, as if it had second thoughts. I took that as a sign. I sat down, opened the folder, and began to read. When I called the network back, I didn't say yes, not at first. I asked questions they didn't expect. Who edits it? Who writes the lower thirds? Who owns the footage? They fumbled. I didn't. "Here's the deal," I said. "You don't get to filter me through comfort. I wanted no edits, no softening of the edges, no trimming my sentences to fit into polite applause. This isn't going to be your redemption arc. I won't be your mirror." Silence on the line. Then a quiet understood. I could feel Tasha across the room nodding slowly as she scrolled through headlines, already spinning my story into something neater than truth. I closed the folder, slid it back across the table. "Then tell them, I'll do it. But I wasn't coming to be interviewed. I was coming to testify. And when the camera rolls this time, I won't be sitting across from a smiling anchor waiting to pounce. I'll be speaking directly to the people who look like me and never thought they'd see someone like them on that screen. I'll be speaking to the ones who clapped during the interview and the ones who cursed at their TVs after. I'll be speaking to the rooms I never got invited into, the boardrooms that double-checked my credentials after shaking my hand. This won't be about defense. This won't be about pain. It'll be about truth, the kind that echoes, and I won't flinch." Now, to those of you watching, some of you are still wondering if I played a card, if I milked the moment, if I twisted the story, so let me make it plain. I didn't play anything. I built the damn deck. I worked while others inherited. I pushed when others coasted. And when I got to the top, I didn't knock. I broke the door off the hinges. This wasn't just a moment. It was a mirror. And what people saw, that's what scared them. Because the truth, when spoken without apology, is louder than any lie whispered in comfort. And now that the mic is mine, I don't plan on putting it down. Leave a comment below to let us know where you are watching from, and if you like fascinating stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because tomorrow we have another incredible story, and there are many surprises waiting for you in the next parts.